library lovers. Now that our leaves have fallen and returned to winter, it's time for the real star of our Pacific Northwest landscape to shine. Let's take a look today at how we can build some amazing pine trees all out of Lego. It's getting a little cold out here, so let's head on over to the Lego studio and hit those bricks. Come on.
Before we get started crafting our own creative conifers, let's take a look at the pre-made pine trees that LEGO has offered over the decades. Way back in time, LEGO put out a variety of these almost two-dimensional plastic trees with a bit of a loose clutch at the bottom for decorating your LEGO cities. Similar to some of the techniques we're going to cover today, these elements were great for use in microscale or backgrounds of your LEGO creations. Later on, multiple sizes of minifig scale trees were released, including this very large one which is no longer in production. They had a 2x2 round base that allowed you to position them on your base plates in your city at any direction that you liked. Some of these smaller designs have come back into production recently, which is really awesome. Now that we've taken a look at the pre-made single element trees, let's dive in to some microscale techniques that you can utilize in a variety of different ways. Here you can see different kinds of pine trees made in different scales and styles that you can use in the background of a larger build to create what's called forced perspective, where things seem far away even though they aren't that much further than the rest of your build. Or you could use them in a microscale build where the entire scene is tiny like this, implying that people might be too small to see, or represented by single studs or tiny nanofigs. Here we're using some really cool new parts that came out of the Chamber of Secrets set. These are used in that set as castle tops, but as soon as I looked at them, I thought, well, if I put a cool natural colored stump on there, then it could look like a really nice pine tree. So I've placed a couple of them here in the scene. We also have tall, straight kind of evergreen, something you might see maybe in a topiary garden or something. We have some toothed elements, also in that sand green color, and here I've placed this one on a 1x1 bracket and have inserted that into this 1x1 Technic brick with open hole. Next to that, I've used a similar technique using a simple headlight brick connection to give the two trees a different height, implying that they are part of this same little forest here, but that they are different ages. Let's see, what's next? We have this little guy, which is made using a piece of flex tube and a single sand green cone and a flower element here at the base. That allows for the bar-shaped element, which is running through the center, to go all the way through all these open holes here. We have a similar style tree over here, which is using this antenna connected to these flower stem elements, transitioning another flower element there, and then 3 upside down little grass pieces to give the shape of a very tall tree. I thought it was cool to use some of the brown pieces hanging down, like some of the older limbs that might be dying off and not receiving enough sunlight. I used a similar technique here inside this snow globe that I built, it's actually a wearable Lego dots bracelet using a technique that I came up with where you put these half bow elements at a half stud offset on the bottom, and it will allow you to build out a much larger base for what you want to put on top. It gives a pretty sturdy connection. And here I have created an enclosure where I built a little penguin and a snowman hanging out together, and one of those inverted style trees with the upside down grass elements, a little snow capped. And then in the back here you can see I've used a recolor of the claw piece hanging out of these headlight bricks here, and those make for even tinier microscale tree. So it's just got that little bar element here at the end so that a minifigure could hold it, and I've stuck it right into that open spot there, given a little snow cap with this pyramid element, and placed them in the background here, giving a very small space this sense of forced perspective with the forest way off in the distance behind. And then I've used these pearlescent Lego dots charm elements as the snow inside the snow globe. And there we have it. Pretty cool. Like I've said in the past, the key when working with microscale is to simply envision these pieces as much larger than life. So while this could be in some sets used to represent an ice cream cone in a tan color and a castle top in this sand green, we've transformed the way we look at it by giving a new perspective, putting it in a microscale scene. Let's take a look at some minifigure scale trees. We have one that I recently built that I'm really excited to share. This is from the Winter Village set, The Gingerbread House. The Lego designers who came up with this technique are super awesome. I just have to show you how this guy goes together. So the tree itself is made up of wedge plates, all stacked on top of each other, getting smaller each time. And that stack of wedge plates has some cheese slopes on it so that it gives it a three-dimensional shape. And you build 4 of those, all going the same direction. And inside the core of the tree are a series of properly spaced Travis bricks with the studs on all sides except for the bottom, so that you can put all 4 sides onto the tree in repeating order, and it creates this wonderful 3-dimensional pine tree shape. Here we have it all decorated with all kinds of things, and then just a little dish for the base. I thought that was a really clever technique that I wanted to share, and we've seen pine trees in just about every single one of the Winter Village sets looking back through time. We also see them appear in some poly bags and in Lego City sets, as well as some really interesting techniques in some of the newer Lego Friends sets, using one of the flower elements in green, again in an upside down format, creating these wonderful tiny pine trees. Throughout the Lego system, you'll oftentimes see pine trees represented using these angular slopes, either in 2-dimensional or, in this case, 3-dimensional format. This one is built around a Technic cross-axle using these 3-directional plates with a cross-axle hole in the middle to give it limbs going in each different direction. And it is topped off with a cone. This is great for our pine trees that have the downward sloping limbs. And here in the Pacific Northwest we see a lot where the branches kind of have an upward rising formation. So in this case, the designer used inverted slopes to give that kind of shape to the branches as they go out. In this case, we're looking at a helicopter blade type top piece here, which is a 4-directional element with a pinhole in the bottom, and then this base, which is the 2x2 with pin, as well as some of the newer 1x2 plates with rounded ends and open holes, and some of the leaf elements, all used in conjunction with the cone and some round plates and these cheese slopes to create this awesome little tree. And a bonus is it spins. Whee! For many years, the angled slopes were the best thing in the toolbox to create pine trees, but nowadays we have lots of varieties of curved slopes as well, which can be used to create so many of the varieties of evergreen trees and evergreen plants that we see every day. Some recent parts even have both angled and rounded components to their slopes. Just like you've seen here in the background of my videos many times, these trees are easy to build and make an awesome set decoration piece for your LEGO worlds. Let's take a look at how we can build this setup today. If you have a make and take kit, now would be the time to get it out. If not, I'm going to go over the elements that we're going to be using today right now. You can go ahead and pause the video and take a look and see if you have any of these in your collection now, or similar pieces that you might be able to use to build the exact model that we're going to be creating today. For starters, we have this 2x10 plate in green and two 2x4 plates as well, and a 1x3 plate in the dark green color. We have a 1x2 jumper plate in green, a 1x2 cheese slope, and this 1x2 headlight brick or snot brick with studs not on top, pointing one direction, and then two 1x1 brown bricks, one 1x1 round white plate, and 5 each of these slopes here, which are both curved and angular. There's sort of a left and a right side. Let's take a look at what we can make. We're going to start with our biggest plate. We'll just take that out and we'll sit it on the ground as our landscape. Now that that's out of the way, we're going to move on to the construction of the tree. Let's break it down here so that we can take a look at how it goes. These elements are going to be on our ground plate. And the tree, like I said, is made up of 5 each of these slopes. So the first 4 of each go on your 2x4 plate, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, because these top ones switch to form the peak. See, this is the same side here, and it moves to the opposite side. So that's the top of the tree. And the bottom is, again, the 2x4 green plate. And we're going to put the 1x2 jumper plate and the 2 1x1 brown bricks at the bottom, followed by the 1x3 plate with one each of those slopes on top, layered together with the bottom part and the top part. And then we construct our base by placing the headlight brick here and this cheese slope next to it. A little bit of snow, since we haven't really seen too much just yet. We place our tree onto the sideways facing studs, and there it stands. An awesome little pine tree to add to your Lego world.
Before we get rolling here, I just wanted to show you one more awesome thing that pertains to what we've been covering today. It is my brick-built solstice tree. This guy shows that the sky is really the limit when it comes to building Lego pine trees. He actually used to be over 4 feet tall. I had built him for a store display, but when I wanted to bring him into the house, we scaled him back a little bit. He's made out of overlapping rings of plates layered with 2x4 bricks to fill out the pine needles on the tree. And at the base you can see we actually use some Duplo brick, which if you don't know is fully compatible with Lego brick. You can put a 2x4 Lego brick right over your 2x2 Duplo bricks. They have these studs in the middle which connect to the bottom tubes of the Lego brick and create a pretty nice bond there. So we built it up, gave it a nice core of some Technic and brown brick, and then the radiating layers, as well as a lovely little face and a mustache to match myself. So really, you have absolutely no limitations when it comes to building and creating your own awesome Lego pine trees. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out and ask me. I am happy to help you find the resources to get the parts you need for building something big, or help you figure out how to build something small. Thanks again for joining us today, and until next time, happy building and play well. Thanks. Bye.